Amina was a young mother who lived in a small, crowded neighborhood filled with narrow streets and old buildings. The place was noisy most of the time because of people talking, children playing, and cars moving slowly. Many families there did not have much money, and life was hard for them. Amina's home was tiny, with just enough space for her and her baby. It was not a comfortable place, but it was the only place she had. Her baby, a little girl no more than 6 months old, cried often. The cries were soft but full of hunger. Amina tried to feed her with the little milk she had, but it was never enough. The baby's small stomach seemed to grow empty quickly, and the hunger made her restless. Amina felt a heavy sadness in her heart every time she heard those cries. She wished she could do more, but she had nothing to give. Amina had not always been like this. Once she had a small job helping in a local shop. She used to earn just enough to buy some food and clothes for herself and her baby. But one day, the shop closed without warning. The owner said he had no more money to keep it open. Amina was left without work. Days passed, then weeks, and she could not find another job. The streets she walked daily were filled with others, who also looked for work, some with little luck. She tried to ask neighbors for help, but most of them were struggling too. Some gave what little food they had, but it was never enough. The local food center helped sometimes, but it was crowded, and they could only give small portions. Amina felt like she was sinking in a deep sea of problems with no way to swim out. Every morning, she woke up early, hoping to find some chance to earn money or find food. She walked to the market, hoping to ask for leftover bread or fruit from the stalls, but the vendors were busy and did not notice her. Sometimes someone would throw a small piece of bread to the street, and Amina would pick it up quickly before anyone else could. It was not enough for her baby, but it was better than nothing. At night, when the city lights shone dimly through her window, Amina would hold her baby close. She rocked the child gently, singing soft songs her mother once sang to her. The baby's small body would calm down for a while, but hunger was never far away. Amina's eyes often filled with tears, but she tried to hide them. She did not want her baby to feel scared or sad. One evening, the weather was cold and the wind blew through the cracks of the old walls. Amina wrapped her baby tightly in a thin cloth. The baby's lips were pale, and she looked weak. Amina felt her heart break. She knew that if she did not find food soon, things could get worse. She thought about asking for help again, but the last time she did, people had turned her away. They said they had no food left or could not help strangers. In the streets, some people walked quickly past her, eyes looking down or away. Others stopped for a moment, then hurried on, busy with their own lives. Amina felt invisible and alone. She wished she could be stronger, that she could find a way to keep her baby safe and fed. But every door she knocked on seemed to close before she could get inside. Her mind was full of worry. How long could she survive like this? How long could her baby go hungry? The fear grew bigger each day. She thought about borrowing money or selling small things she had, but she had almost nothing left. The clothes she wore were old and torn. The small necklace she once had was gone. Her last hope was slipping away. One day, while walking through a narrow street near the market, Amina saw a man coming from the opposite direction. He carried a bag full of food. The smell of fresh bread and cooked meat came from the bag. Amina's stomach tightened. She looked at the man, then at her baby. The baby's eyes were wide and searching. Amina's heart told her to try something she never thought she would do. She walked faster, her steps nervous but quick. She stopped the man and asked him for food. Her voice was shaky but firm. The man looked surprised and a little scared. Amina's mind raced. This was not how she wanted to live, but hunger made people do things they never imagined. She asked again, this time with more desperation. The man's eyes searched hers. He saw not a thief or a criminal, but a mother fighting too. Save her child. Amina waited, hoping he would understand and give her some food without anger or fear. The man, David, stood still for a moment, surprised by the sudden demand. Amina's eyes were filled with worry, but also hope. She could see that David was unsure what to do. He was just an ordinary man walking home from the market, carrying the food he had bought for himself and his family. He did not expect to be stopped or asked for anything, especially not like this. David looked carefully at Amina and the small baby in her arms. The baby was wrapped in a thin cloth, looking tired and hungry. David's heart softened. He could see the deep fear and need in Amina's face. She was not trying to hurt anyone or cause trouble. She was a mother in pain, desperate to save her child. Instead of stepping back or walking away, David did something unexpected. He reached into his bag and took out a small loaf of bread. The bread was fresh, warm, and smelled good. David handed it to Amina without saying a word. His eyes showed kindness and understanding. Amina looked at the bread with surprise. She had expected anger or rejection, but this man was giving her what she needed. Slowly, she took the bread and held it close. Her hands trembled a little, but she smiled softly, feeling a spark of hope. She whispered a quiet, "Thank you," before feeding the bread to her baby. The baby's tiny mouth opened eagerly. As she tasted the bread, her eyes brightened for the first time in days. Amina felt tears welling up in her eyes. The hunger that had filled her heart with fear began to ease. This small act of kindness was more than food. It was a light in the darkness. David sat down on a nearby bench. He watched as Amina fed her baby slowly and carefully. He could see the love and care she gave, even when she had almost nothing. David thought about his own family waiting for him at home. He felt a connection with this mother he had just met. For a few minutes, neither of them spoke. The sounds of the street filled the air, the chatter of people, the footsteps of passers-by, the distant honking of cars. But in this small moment, there was a quiet peace between them. David felt something shift inside him. He wanted to do more. "Do you have a place to stay?" David finally asked, gently. Amina shook her head. She told him that she had a small room but no money to pay the rent. She was worried that soon she would lose even that. David listened carefully, not judging, only caring. "Are you able to find help?" he asked next. Amina said she had tried. She told him about the food centers, the neighbors who couldn't help, and the fear of asking strangers for too much. David understood. It was not easy to ask for help, and even harder to find it when people are busy or tired themselves. David reached into his bag again and pulled out a small bottle of water and some fruit. He gave them to Amina, who smiled gratefully. The baby's eyes followed the fruit as Amina peeled it slowly, making sure the baby could eat safely. Then David spoke about a place he knew nearby, a community center where mothers like Amina could get food, clothes, and advice. He explained that the center helped many families who were struggling. Amina listened closely. She had heard about such places, but had never been brave enough to go. David offered to walk with her to the center. Amina hesitated at first, not used to trusting strangers, but something in David's calm and friendly face made her feel safe. She agreed. They walked together through the streets, Amina holding her baby tightly. David pointed out small signs on the walls that showed the way. The path was not long, but for Amina, it felt like a journey toward hope. At the center, they were welcomed by a kind woman named Sarah. She smiled warmly at Amina and the baby. Sarah showed them a place where they could rest and gave Amina some food packages to take home. Amina felt tears again, this time tears of relief. David stayed for a while talking to Sarah and learning how he could help more mothers like Amina. Amina watched them, feeling grateful and a little amazed. She never expected that one moment when she was scared and hungry could turn into something so good. Before leaving, David gave Amina his phone number and told her to call if she ever needed anything. Amina held the small piece of paper tightly in her hand. It was more than a number. It was a lifeline. As they walked back through the streets, Amina felt lighter than she had in a long time. The baby was calm now, resting quietly. Amina looked at David and smiled. "Thank you," she said softly. David smiled back, knowing that the real help was just beginning. For David, this encounter changed his day and his thoughts. He realized that kindness could make a real difference. Sometimes people need a little help, not judgment or fear. He decided to find more ways to support families in his neighborhood. For Amina, this moment was the start of hope. She knew the road ahead would still be hard, but now she was not alone. She had found a friend and a place that could help her and her baby survive. After that first meeting, Amina began to feel a small but growing hope in her heart. David did more than just give her food that day. He had taken the time to listen to her story, to understand her struggles, and to help her find a place where she could get support. This was something Amina had never experienced before. A stranger who cared not just for a moment, but in a way that felt real and lasting. At the community center, Amina found many things she had been missing. The center was a warm and safe place filled with people who wanted to help others. There were shelves with food, clothes, and toys for children. Volunteers smiled kindly and offered help without judgment. For the first time in weeks, Amina felt welcomed and understood. The staff helped Amina fill out some simple forms so she could receive regular food supplies. They explained that the center also offered free health checkups for mothers and babies, classes to learn new skills, and sometimes even small jobs. Amina was nervous, but excited. She had never thought she could get help like this. David visited the center often. He spoke with the staff and learned about the different ways to support families like Amina's. Sometimes he would bring extra food from the market or small gifts for the children. He wanted to do more than just help one person. He wanted to make a difference in the whole community. Amina and David's friendship grew stronger. They talked about many things, the difficulties of life, dreams for the future, and the love they felt for children. Amina shared how lonely and scared she had felt before. David listened carefully and encouraged her to believe in herself. He told her that she was strong because she was still standing and caring for her baby, even when things were very hard. With David's encouragement, Amina began to visit the center regularly. She joined a group for mothers where she met others who were in similar situations. They shared stories, advice, and support. Amina realized she was not alone in her struggles. This gave her courage and confidence. The community center also helped Amina learn new skills. She took part in simple classes that taught sewing and cooking. These classes were fun and gave her a sense of purpose. She dreamed of starting a small business one day, maybe making clothes to sell or cooking food for others. One day, a volunteer helped Amina connect with a local clinic. The doctor checked her baby's health and told her how to take better care of her. Amina learned about vaccinations and how important it was to keep the baby clean and warm. The health advice made her feel more prepared and hopeful. David continued to check on Amina. Sometimes, he helped her carry food bags or walked with her to important appointments. Amina appreciated his kindness and friendship. She no longer felt like a stranger in the busy city. She felt part of a caring community. Despite these positive changes, life was still not easy. Amina had many worries. She had to find work to pay for rent and clothes. Sometimes the baby was sick or cried through the night. There were days when food was scarce, and Amina felt tired and overwhelmed. But now she knew she could ask for help, and that made a big difference. One afternoon, David and Amina sat on a bench outside the center. They watched children playing nearby and people passing by. Amina smiled and said, "I never thought I would find such help." You showed me that there is kindness even in the hardest times." David smiled back and said, "We all need each other. Sometimes one small act can change everything." Amina's life was slowly changing. She felt stronger and more hopeful. She knew the road ahead would be long, but she was ready to face it with new friends and support. The baby's bright eyes and gentle smiles were a daily reminder of why she had to keep going. The story of Amina and David is a story of kindness and hope. It shows how a simple act, giving food to a hungry mother, can lead to much more. It reminds us that when people care and work together, they can help each other rise above the toughest challenges. Days turned into weeks, and Amina's life slowly began to change. The small steps she took with David's help were becoming stronger steps toward a better future. She was no longer alone in her struggle. The kindness she had received had opened doors to new opportunities and hope. One of the most important changes was that Amina started to find small jobs through the community center. These jobs were simple but steady, like helping in local shops or cleaning houses. The money was not much, but it was enough to buy some food and pay a little rent. For the first time in a long time, Amina felt the relief of having some control over her life. At the center, she also made new friends. Other mothers shared their stories, advice, and encouragement. They helped each other with baby care tips and sometimes shared food or clothes. This support created a sense of family that Amina had missed so deeply. She no longer felt isolated or scared. David continued to visit often. Sometimes he brought food or clothes, but more importantly, he brought encouragement and hope. He listened when Amina was tired or worried and helped her see the progress she was making. His friendship gave her strength during hard moments. One afternoon, Amina received some unexpected news. A distant relative had found out about her situation and wanted to help. They offered a small room in their home where she and her baby could stay for a while. This was a big step for Amina. Having a safe and warm place to live gave her peace of mind and more energy to focus on rebuilding her life. Amina moved into the room and felt grateful for the chance. She kept working at the small jobs and visited the community center regularly. The baby was growing stronger and healthier thanks to the care and support Amina was now able to give. However, life was not without challenges. Some days were hard. Sometimes Amina would feel tired and worried about the future. The baby would cry through the night, and the small worries felt big. But each time, Amina reminded herself of how far she had come. She had faced hunger and fear, but had found help, friendship, and hope. David and Amina also talked about the future. They dreamed of a better life, not just for Amina and her baby, but for all the mothers and children in their neighborhood. They hoped to create more support groups and find ways to help families who were struggling alone. One day, Amina helped organize a small event at the community center. Mothers brought food to share, and children played together. The center was full of laughter and warmth. For Amina, this was a moment of joy and pride. She felt part of something bigger, a community that cared and helped each other. Amina's story spread quietly through the neighborhood. People saw how kindness could change a life. They began to look around with more care and to offer help to those in need. The small acts of support grew into a movement of hope. Amina never forgot the moment she first met David, when she was so desperate she had tried to take food by force. That moment had turned into the beginning of something wonderful. She learned that kindness could come from the most unexpected places, and that hope could grow even in the darkest times. Her baby, once hungry and weak, was now smiling and growing every day. Amina held her close, feeling the warmth of a new beginning. She knew challenges would still come, but she also knew she was no longer alone. The story of Amina and David is a reminder of the power of compassion. It shows how one person's kindness can inspire hope, change lives, and create a better world. Their journey teaches us that even when life is hard, there is always a chance for a new beginning. Months passed, and Amina's life began to feel different, more hopeful and stable than before. The days of worry and hunger were slowly fading, replaced by small successes and new dreams. With each day, Amina worked hard to create a better future for her baby and herself. The kindness she had received from David and the community center had become a foundation she could build upon. Amina found a small but steady job helping in a local shop. It was not easy work, but it gave her a sense of pride and independence. She woke up early each morning, dressed in her best clothes, and walked to the shop with her baby safely tucked away with a neighbor she trusted. The baby's happy smile every time Amina returned made all the effort worthwhile. David continued to be a good friend. Though he had his own family and responsibilities, he always made time to check on Amina and her baby. Sometimes they met at the community center or in the neighborhood park, sharing stories and laughter. David's presence was a steady reminder that kindness and friendship could come when least expected. Amina's confidence grew. She began to save small amounts of money, dreaming of one day opening a tiny business of her own. She wanted to sew clothes or cook simple meals to sell, something that would allow her to care for her baby and herself without relying on others. The community center offered classes to help with this, and Amina was eager to learn. Her baby, once fragile and quiet, was now full of energy and curiosity. The little girl learned to crawl and then walk, filling Amina's home with laughter and joy. Amina often looked at her child and felt deep gratitude for the chance to watch her grow and thrive. The struggles of the past were still there, but they no longer defined her life. Amina also became an important part of the community. She volunteered at the center, helping other mothers who were new and scared like she once was. She shared her story, giving hope to others who thought their troubles would never end. Her experience showed them that help was possible and that they were not alone. One day, the community center held a celebration for all the families it had helped. There was food, music, and smiles everywhere. Amina and David were there, surrounded by friends and neighbors. It was a joyful moment, full of hope and promise. People spoke about their dreams and plans for the future, inspired by how far they had come together. Amina stood quietly, watching the children play. She felt a deep peace inside. The journey had been hard, but she had made it through with help and love. She remembered the night she first asked David for food, feeling afraid and desperate. Now, she saw how that moment had changed everything. She realized that kindness was a powerful thing, more powerful than hunger, fear, or loneliness. It could build bridges, heal wounds, and create new beginnings. Amina knew her life would still have challenges, but she was ready to face them with hope and strength. David smiled as he watched Amina and her baby. He felt proud to have helped. But more than that, he felt grateful. Grateful that a simple act of sharing food had brought two strangers together and changed their lives. He believed that if everyone chose kindness, the world would be a better place. Amina's story is one of courage, hope, and the power of human kindness. It reminds us that even in the hardest times, there is always a chance to find help and build a new future. Sometimes, the smallest act, a piece of bread, a listening ear, a shared smile, can mean everything. Her baby's laughter filled the room as Amina held her close. Together, they faced the future with open hearts, ready to write the next chapter of their lives. And in that moment, they both knew that no matter what came next, they would never face it alone.